The Miami Dolphins franchise is up for sale, and Xavier Klein is eyeing a potential purchase. With that purchase, the Miami Dolphins franchise will be no more, as Xavier Klein has an image at which he would like to fulfill this new organization. The Miami Dolphins have moved from Miami and are headed north of the border to Toronto. Now, the mascot that will represent them is supposed to be fierce. It's supposed to be something that could attack from above, and that will be the Snowhawk. With this new purchase, the Toronto Snowhawks organization will also be doing something unlike any other organization. All players have been removed from the roster, and they will have to start this franchise from scratch. Regardless of this obstacle, though, the hope is that this team and this organization can grow to a Super Bowl power. Let's get to it. All right, everybody, welcome back to a new series here. We had the Xavier Klein series, and the rebuilding of the Miami Dolphins was fun to a certain extent, but kind of lost its luster there, where it just was like the journey aspect of it just did not seem to fit with what I was trying to do with that universe. So I want to go to something that I used to do in the previous Maddens, and we're going to be building a new franchise in the NFL. So the Dolphins are no longer there. It is now the Toronto Snowhawks. I wanted to pick a city that would be fitting of the division, right? AFC East, and I think getting them around that area there too, right? You got New England there, and Buffalo. So I'm like, okay, we're all around that same region. The Toronto Snowhawks would make a little more sense there. So that's what we'd like to do at this point. As I said, we went ahead and removed every player off the roster. It takes a little bit of time to do that, but what you would do is you go to each player and switch all their contracts to the last year, and then when you advance into the off season, you're able to have all the players removed. Outside of the practice squad players, you got to go ahead and just release them in the next advance kind of deal. So it leaves you into the free agency market. Now, how I have this set up here is in the initial season, is what I like to do is just kind of build this out slowly but surely, and just allow us to kind of take full advantage of our roster building within the draft. So how we're going to set this up are the following rules. In the free agency market, you can never pick up a player greater than 78 overall. So even as we continue to grow into this series, we have to emphasize our draft ability. So you're going to have to pick up players that are no more than 78, and with each side of the roster, you are going to have at least 85% of each side matching up with the scheme. So this is super huge here in this setup, is that each side of the offense and on the offensive defensive side must be at least 85% scheme fit, which means it's not just the starters that you're going to have to emphasize scheme fit, but even the backups. So it's going to be key to ensure you got all that in order. Also, with that, at least 7 of the players that are active, like are on the starting lineup, on each side of the field, have to be a scheme fit. So what I can't do is run the game of getting a bunch of players that are scheme fit on the back end and then run everybody that's not on the team that's not a scheme fit as starters. That's not what we're going to do. So at least 7 players on the starting lineup have to be scheme fit, which means if someone gets hurt and they happen to not be a scheme fit or happen to be a scheme fit and you're at 7, you got to remove somebody else, have them start, and allow that to work out there. So it's going to be kind of a mix of how we'd like to get that done in that space. Now, how we draft. So the draft strategy also has to kind of fit with what you're trying to do. Now, from a realistic standpoint here, what teams always want to do, right, is draft best player available. Now, most of the time, players that are drafted within the first 3 rounds tend to be best player available because those are the players that are as close, usually around the first 2 rounds, but basically the first 3 rounds is how we'll do it. They tend to be NFL ready, which means regardless of whether they're a scheme fit or not, they will adapt and they will have a better chance to succeed in the NFL, regardless of scheme, typically. Now, granted, got bad coaching and stuff. We'll talk to our staff in a second, but that's how we have it set up right there, to where we want to make sure that we kind of emphasize the scheme and the design of our coaches. And we do have rules about that we'll talk through. So the first 3 rounds will be best player available, and rounds 4 through 7 will be players that you have to draft that are a scheme fit. So this is going to be crucial, right? If we start trading teams for rounds 4 through 7, you better start looking at players that are going to be a scheme fit that you'll put on your board to match up with what you're trying to do. The reason for that, the reason why you from a team building standpoint, players that are drafted between rounds 4 through 7 are kind of like a dart throw. But what can help them in their overall development is making sure that you're picking a player that understands your current scheme. And if they can fit that, like they're a zone corner or they're a speed rusher kind of deal, if you put them in those positions there on offense or defense, then they will tend to adapt to the NFL speed and the NFL ability, the NFL playing more as quick as you can do it from someone that's still in development. So also, when you have a scheme fit in rounds 4 through 7 too, you got players like that, you have a chance for them to also have more XP so they can grow and develop and hopefully become a starter one day. So those are the current rules that we have there, and it's tough, man. It is not going to be easy where you have the rules where you can never pick up a free agent greater than 78. That means the stars that are out there, right? So like every Miami Dolphin star that's out there, Devon Achane, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Ramsey, Tyreek Hill, even somebody as senior as Jonnu Smith will not be available unless they are a lower OVR. So we want to try to make this challenging. It's a new franchise, so that's our hope. Give them a chance to develop, but also understand that this is a team that's going to have to work through it through the draft. So the more we trade for draft picks, the more we try to get players throughout this thing. We want to have the ability to work it from the ground up. So we have to be really on the ball there when it comes to selecting players throughout the draft. We're going to still use auto generated draft classes, but I think this is what I would like to do here, just to kind of mix it up. I think next season, next Madden, I have an idea of how I'd like to build out this universe. One of the things is really around like locations. I think when you see certain teams, right, like AFC North, for example, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincy, Cleveland, they kind of match up with the northern region. But then you got certain other divisions where you're just like, how does that make any sense? And when you look at like the NFC East for example, the Cowboys are there, right? So like, I wish there was a way we can move the divisions around. I think that would have been fun. But when you look at some of these divisions here, like, doesn't make sense. The South, it kind of matches up a little bit. They're kind of the Southeast region, I guess. AFC East kind of fits now with the Dolphins relocating. I would say this one's kind of rough. The Chiefs being in the West, it's not necessarily the West. They should probably be more in like the Central, but there is no AFC Central anymore. So that's kind of tough where you would have it. Maybe they would be AFC East kind of, but in the next Madden series, I have an idea of how I'd like to maybe make this stuff make a little more sense as far as location. So we might mix in some other new location teams kind of deal. But that's how we're going to do it. You know, when we look at the available players that are out there, I could bring some Dolphins back if I want, if they're within our range, but I'm really not focused on that. My goal is to bring in players that fit with what we're trying to do here. So again, 78 overall is the max, and that's how we'll do it. To also put some wrinkle into this thing, the first 2 stages will only allow me to pick up 5 players per stage. You're also taking into account of the last stage, where in the last stage you could only give out 1-year contracts. So it's going to be tough, man. It's not going to be an easy deal, but we'll kind of work through it. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off. I'll talk through some of the players that I pick up in each stage, and how I did it and why I did it, and we'll kind of go from there. So in the first stage here, we got a mix of players that I was trying to work through. Technically, if we struck gold on the first stage, we would have 15 players. We are not there at all. So we're going to kind of talk through it right now. So the first couple players we picked up are Eric Kendricks. I wanted a good veteran that has mentorship, versatility in the linebacker range, so we can have him play on the outside, inside, kind of work out. Jamie Sherwood's behind him. To me, with Jamie Sherwood, he is a middle linebacker, so he'll get the ability of getting mentored by Kendricks, and that works through it. Our big star, I guess, of the signings is Eric Stokes. We signed him for a 3-year deal for $12.9 million. He'll be our starting corner. He's a scheme fit and works through it. We picked up a guy here in Deo Odeyingbo, 74 overall, young player. We signed him for a 3-year deal, $21.6 million. So he's going to be a young potential star there with us on the interior line. Our, I guess you could say, star on the left tackle side is Brady Christensen. This guy, when he was drafted, everyone had a lot of hope for him, and it just didn't really pan out as much. But I think, you know, there's a chance to redeem himself here. A player who is now back in the NFL in real life. I guess he had some like intestinal colitis or something. He had some type of issue with his intestines that kind of messed him up. He's back in the NFL, so I'm like, hey, let's bring him back as a potential redemption story here in the wide receiver group. He is a scheme fit, and I think that'll work out. Another player coming over from the Packers is Bo Melton. He's got some good speed to him, and my hope is that, you know, maybe he'll find his way to get a little bit more attention now on this new expansion team. We picked up a center in Robert Hainsey. Not the craziest overall, but his awareness is an 80, so I think that's a good start right there. And then we grabbed Tyler Huntley. So again, this stage, we only got 5 players per stage. We got 3 that are currently active right now. But this is not going to be easy, folks. The more and more we continue to build this out, hopefully we'll find those players. So as far as the next stage there, as we're heading to stage 3, we picked up a couple players. One, we picked up a new punter. I wanted to make sure I had someone who was decent. Ryan Wright, we signed him for a 4-year deal for $8 million. I think that was a good move since he's 25 years old. We're going to be punting a lot, so I want to make sure we have someone that's pretty decent there. And in the dome, hopefully the guy will be able to boot that sucker deep. We ended up going after Damar Hamlin, you know, the star out of Buffalo there. I think that's going to be kind of neat, playing within the division there, going against his former team. I think Damar Hamlin has the ability to kind of play zone the way we want him to, you know, good tackler and able to keep the ball in front of him. So I'm hoping we can work through that. We picked up Riley Patterson. This is kind of an underrated kicker. He just really hasn't found his spot, but coming out of Memphis, I think this is a guy that could do some good work. He's been in the NFL now for about 5 years, and good kick power, good accuracy. You signed him for about a decent contract there in a 4-year deal. Again, you lock up your special teams and you're good to go. We picked up Joseph Asai, former Bengal. Guys, a scheme fit can do what he needs to do off the edge. I think that's going to work out there. We grabbed Darrell Taylor, another scheme fit guy that can help on the line. I think that's going to work out. We went ahead and grabbed veteran Zach Cunningham, former Texan, that I think the guy, you know, he's 30 years old. He's not crazy old, but I think he's got the veteranship to help out that linebacker group. Figured out picking up a running back here who last year, honestly, he had a decent run for like a couple weeks and then got hurt. Sincere McCormick. He's kind of an underrated guy. A little bit of a bowling ball, 87 speed, 88 awareness, but his carrying is solid at 92. And I think at 24 years old for a 2-year deal, it's not bad. We snagged up a linebacker in Patrick Jones. This guy never really found his footing. I believe he was on the Vikings. And I think he can probably help out and play the edge. We found some sneaky O-linemen. Sam Mustipher is one of them. He's got 85 awareness. So with that 83 strength, I think he's more of a finesse guy and can kind of help us out in the interior line alongside Brady Christensen. And I think this could be a pretty good move there. We snagged up a corner in Marco Wilson, who I feel pretty confident that he could play the CB2 next to Eric Stokes. We found another guy that's more versatile, Keon Croson, the most user-friendly player, right, in Madden over the former years. It was either him or there was another cat out of the Jets where their speed is crazy, 94 speed, and he could play in the slot or he could play on outside if we need him. I think this particular tight end here is very sneaky. Tommy Tremble. He's got some concussion issues, I believe in real life, but Tommy Tremble, to me, he's got the speed and versatility to help out our QB. Our very first player that's not a scheme fit, and he just couldn't find him because our scheme has a speed rusher attribute in the interior line. Isaiah Buggs, though, is the guy I'm a big fan of. 6'3", 335. He's a space eater. He's going to be able to hold that interior line and really help us out. The guard that I was talking about, like we picked up Mustipher. Look at this, Solomon Kinley, Georgia guard, 6'3", 339, 80 awareness. Very sneaky type of guard here at 68 overall. Got him for cheap, 3-year deal, about a little over $8 million a year, but I think that's pretty fair for an interior guard. We found Tanner Muse. In real life, he just hasn't found his footing. He was over with the Vikings, just never figured it out. But the way I look at it, again, versatility. Can play on the outside, can play interior line if need be and work out. Found another wide receiver in Samori Torre. I thought that was pretty good there. Good speed. He could play in the interior slot receiver, or he could play on the outside. Cameron Irving, very versatile swing tackle kind of deal. He's going to play as our starting right tackle. And then we found a strong safety in Josh Thompson. Low OVR. But he's got no guaranteed money, so that means there's a chance we can kind of move on from him if need be. But he's got some good speed to him that I think can really help us out in the secondary. So now we are in the last stage, and this means all the players that I'm picking up now will be 1-year deals. The cap room on the top is very significant because that's the amount of money that you have available, right? But the number right above that is how much money we have available. So you got to be careful on how you set up your team, because if 193 million is all you have extra in cash, if you start going into the negatives, you are talking about your team potentially going under. So we got to pay attention to that. That's why drafting well is super key. Moving up and down the draft to fill out more spots, but also allow yourself to get reasonable contracts is very, very important. But I am ready to roll here in stage number 3. Let's see who we can get. So with the first free agent signings here in this franchise, the Snowhawks have 51 players on the roster. So we're going to talk through a little bit about some of these guys here in just a moment, but I kind of wanted to show that we actually ended up achieving what we wanted. The scheme fit has worked out. We are at 90% on the offensive side and 86% on the defensive side. So we have hit everything that we needed there. And as you can see, we got 9 players in a scheme fit there. And on the offensive side, we only have one player that is not a scheme fit, and that is the QB. So it's going to be very interesting. I think our starting lineup looks okay. We got some things to work on. Cameron Irving, you know, he could do that. They're going to have Dwayne Brown play right tackle based on this scheme, but we'll probably move Irving to that. Brown's more of a backup. Don't really want him out there just yet. I think the Tremble, Uzama, Bates could be a pretty good trio there in the tight end group. Zach Horvath, we signed him as a fullback, as a cheap potential tight end if needed. So I think that's going to work out. Huntley and Mariota are going to be the quarterbacks there, so we'll see a little bit of a QB battle in the preseason. The wide receivers are very interesting. You got Cavante Turpin out there, and I want it to be Hunter, probably Bo Melton and Cavante Turpin there. Turpin can play a punt returner, but Hunter Renfrow I think is going to be a good slot with McKenzie. You got Samari Torrey there, and Tyler Johnson is kind of a sneaky guy too. So I'm hoping we'll see a good mix up there in the halfback, in the wide receiver room. The running backs, you got Sincere McCormick, Jamal Williams, and Nwangu, who I think can really be an okay trio there in the backfield. The defensive side, you actually have some very sneaky players here. I think Tonga and Coburn and Bugs, these guys equal over 1,000 pounds, just those three alone. Al-Qadim Mohammed is a sneaky pick to play on the outside. Darrell Taylor, Osai, and Odiingbo, they're going to be used quite a bit there, and that's going to be kind of fun. The linebacking group to me looks very solid. We got some really good players that I think on my end could really be fun as far as playing in the special teams and getting involved in a lot of areas there. So the safety group is also kind of sneaky, and you know, we'll kind of work through it. But it's really nice to see that we did find a scheme fit there across the board, and we're going to keep it rolling. As far as the players that were signed, right, the former Dolphins, where did they all go? Let's check it out. Tyreek Hill is a Washington Commander, signed a 3-year deal for $98 million. So yeah, 98. Wow, is that right? $98 million? Oh my gosh, for a 31-year-old Tyreek Hill. Jalen Ramsey heading to the Steelers for a 1-year deal for $24.7 million. Kendall Fuller going to the Packers. Jardarius Ward is a Patriot. Chubb is a Lion. Jalen Waddle going to the Cardinals to help out Kyler Murray there. I think that's a good move for him. Tyron Smith going to the Rams. He actually retired in real life. Hufunga's a Ram. I don't think any of these are that crazy. Javon Holland is a Niner. Tua Tagovailoa goes to the Raiders, signs a 4-year deal, $186 million. That's actually pretty cheap for a QB. 4-year deal, 186. That's actually a little over $42 million a year. That's actually really good for backup for quarterback there. So they're probably not going to look at a QB. Devon Achane going to the Steelers. That's actually a nice move for them. Very versatile running back there. So pretty interesting. I'm not too worried about any of the other players. I was really interested in what happened to my guys. There was another cat here. Jalen Phillips going to the Lions. That's a Lion move right there. I think we actually traded him in one of our series too. So not looking too bad on that one. Going to set up for the draft. We will talk through our board in just a moment and see who will be our very first draft picks for the Toronto Snowhawks. So we went ahead and built out a board here, folks, of about a little over 70 players on the board. And I think this is kind of neat, right? We definitely tried to make sure we were fortunate that our scouts had QB as an emphasis, so we can kind of see the top 5 picks in this year's draft are quarterbacks. So maybe one of them fall to us, which would be kind of nice. But if not, we do have backups. I focused on trying to make sure we selected players that were a straight up scheme fit. Some that were not, like Callaway, are going to be in the first round. And as we said earlier, rounds 1 through 3 would be a best player available, while rounds 4 through 7 would be scheme fits. So I went ahead and looked at a couple players like tight ends out there that I think can work out. There's an interesting wide receiver here that is a scheme fit in Jerron Wakefield. He's 6'2", 206 playmaker. Looks like his overall would be in the round 1 there. He's pretty decent when it comes to agility. He's nothing too crazy from the other aspects there, but I feel like you can develop that because look at the rest of the stat line, folks. You're talking about an ability to kick return. He's got good deep route running, break tackle, ball carry vision. Like, this is a guy maybe you could actually be throwing into the backfield if you wanted. 4.56 is kind of rough, but man, could you convert this guy into a running back, and how could he work out there? There are a couple players that we continue to focus on, right, that I thought were pretty decent, and it's this guard right here. I looked at Sidney Callaway, and he is considered a top 5 pick in this year's draft. So O-line is always great, and we get some youth in there. You get to kind of infuse it. Now, Solomon Kinley, to me, is a very good guard, but just because he's a good guard doesn't mean that you just don't draft players. And what you want to do is make sure you snag it up. I think you can find some sneakier players in the skill positions down the road, and we do have a lot of UDFAs that are available, but that is one right there that is pretty awesome. Sidney Callaway looks to be a steal. We also looked at a halfback here. He's a power back. This is Cameron Sneed. He'd be projected to be in the 2nd and 3rd round, but with a value of a 1 to 2. A carrying here. He's got a 4.4 speed with 28 on the bench. So this guy's a mixture of speed and strength. So when you see something like that, you know, he's got good pass blocking ability as well. You want to see if you can upgrade the running room anywhere you can. And I think with Cameron Sneed, that could be a very, very sneaky pick. So we do have some room here. A lot of different players that we're thinking about trying to kind of move towards. You do have another guard here in Broyles. That is another guy that is 2nd and 3rd round projection, but talent is 1 to 2. Awareness needs some work, but this is the fast. He's the fastest guard out there. Looks to be a straight athlete, and this is a guy that we could leverage and put him into the lineup sooner than later. So we are looking at the interior line. We want to make sure that we're strong there. There are some good players across the board, though, that I'm excited for, and I think we could have a shot at getting some really, really good players along the way. So I am looking forward to this draft, folks. What we're going to do on our end, though, is we're only going to talk about our picks. I will not look at anybody else and see where they stand. My focus is who did we pick up. So let's get to it. We will talk about our draft picks when we make the choice. So, folks, we are pick number 13. And guess who is on the board? We can get any quarterback that we want right now, or we can go after considered a top 5 pick in Sidney Callaway. We have so many options here. I did not expect any of the quarterbacks to fall to us, but this is big. You got Brandon Moore, who's considered a strong arm quarterback. He looks to be an overall of 1 to 2, but you're talking about a QB need, right? We got Huntley and Mariota. Do we make that choice there? You also got a cat here in Lawrence House, 6'6", big dog here at 232 pounds. Top 5 pick, but his talent is more 2 to 3. So if we grab him, he's probably going to be a developmental guy. Do we want to reach for that? And then you're looking at Mark O'Neal, 6'3", 220, A under pressure, A short pass. You got a guy here that can move in and out. 4.72 doesn't really scream amazing, though. We got to remember that. But the under pressure is nice. The throw on the run is clean. You're talking about a guy that could be closer to improvise than to a field general type QB. So, man, do we try to pull the trigger on Mark O'Neal, or do we go after the best players in this one here? So when it comes down to it, as much as I would love a quarterback right now, I'm going to grab a player that is projected to be one of the best in this year's draft. You take the guard, you make sure that your team is set and ready to roll. It is an offensive need. You got to be happy about that. You take the player here in Sidney Callaway and you get excited about it. Number 1 in truth value, and we drafted him at 13. That is huge here for the freaking Toronto Snowhawks. We get a guy with hidden dev. He's an O-lineman, so, you know, he's a guy that's not really going to make a whole lot of waves and get a whole lot of jerseys sold. But you're talking about building up this O-line. You get the trenches in order. 6'3", 307 out of North Carolina State. He's a pass protector, and you get excited about this. On to the next pick. So one of the things that I recognize right now is that we do not have a 3rd round pick. So once we make that decision here, I believe we don't have a 3rd or a 4th round pick. So if we look at that real quick, oh, we have a 4th. We don't have a 3rd. So if we trade back a little bit, could we get our 3rd round pick and allow ourselves to kind of have a little bit more room? I think that could be a possibility. Let's see what picks are out there. Usually with these ones, they kind of get a little weird, so let's pay attention to it. The Browns looking to trade, give us all our picks this year or next year, so that's not going to help us out. The Seahawks will give us a 7th, no thank you. Raiders trying to give us all their picks next year, no thanks. Niners trying to give us all their picks, no thanks. None of these really are interesting. I think if we made a move, and it looks like the Colts really want to move up, I'm wondering if we could trade. We are in the AFC East, so I'm wondering if we can trade. Ooh, this will be tough. I'm wondering if we could trade. Who's going to be really bad next year? Maybe the Colts? Let's see if we can do that. Let's see if we can trade with the Colts. See where they stand. Do they even have a pick? I don't know if they do. This is the tough part right here, where we got to know, what do the Colts have? Do they got a 2nd round pick? And they do. So we can take their 2nd round, and I'd be cool to go 2nd and 3rd round. But I don't know how far we'd be up. So we're the pick right before them. So I don't think we're going to be able to do that. Let's look at the Vikings real quick. Where are the Vikings? Where do they stand in the picking range? I think they're in the later part. They do not have a 3rd round pick. Super cool there. What is it? The Raiders. Raiders have 2 3rd round picks. So could we wait for that and get the back-to-back? I don't think so. The Browns are trying to trade with us. They have 2 3rd round picks as well. I think we're going to have to make our pick, folks. So we are going to be without a 3rd round pick in this first year in this franchise. So it is what it is. We get the picks that where they stand. But what I'm excited about is you take the players that work out there, and Snead is the guy that is within our range here. It is a running back, but in a 2nd round running back is not bad at all. Cameron Snead is a good pass blocker. The dude's got a truck stick and a stiff arm. Good awareness to him. Break tackles possible there. And I think that's going to work out. We take the guy. We make it work. He's a scheme fit. Cameron Snead, 23 in true value. We drafted him at 45. Hard-nosed runner. Norm Dev, 92 speed, 92 acceleration. You know, this is not bad, dude. Holds the ball tight to the body. Displayed ability to stay up and drag tacklers. So, first 2 picks, we snag up some guys that I'm pretty happy about. An O-lineman along with a running back. We head to the next pick. So, we're in the 4th round now. And I want to see who could we potentially pick up here, right? Who is left on the board? 4th round means you have to be a scheme fit. So do people make it out here, right? Playmakers are available. You got Juan Smith there, and you got John Solano. You got some strong safeties that might be interesting there for us. You know, who could be the dog that makes it work for us? Now, Juan Smith has fallen, right? He was a 2nd or 3rd rounder, and he's fallen all the way to the 4th, and that has a lot to do with just his overall combine I mean, his cone is not the greatest. His shuttle is nice, so he's quite agile, but when you look at this, is like, I mean, he's all right. I think this is the kind of stuff that, you know, do you take Juan here? You get another wide receiver that works out for us. That could be a potential there. Do you go after a day 3 guy now? I think you gotta try to see if you can find some of these dudes here. And let's look at Solano, right? We do need a wide receiver. Does that really work out for us? 4-4-5, the dude's pretty freaking. This is John Solano looks like a freak. He is a playmaker. His release is trash. Break tackle could be a lot of different things there. So I'm wondering, right, is that going to make the waves for us? Or do you take someone like Juan Smith, who is a little faster? No, I think if anything, I think we wait on Solano because he's a playmaker. You work through that. Do we try to take maybe a strong safety now? So do we? Which one's got the better one? I think the 4-4-8 Dominique Goodson can be pretty solid here. And I'm wondering what we can do, knowing that we got the plays here. Maybe we just trade back. Let's kind of see what we can do here. They would give us a 2026. None of these really scream amazing. Well, oh, this is it right here. We get a 5th round pick this year and a 6th round for their 4th round. I don't think that's quite amazing. I'd like to see with the Cowboys, could I get a 4th for the Cowboys? Let's look at the Cowboys real quick. They may not have a 4th, to be honest. They've been weird. So they don't have a 4th round pick. Oh my gosh. So we would have to take their 5th and 6th. I don't think the Cowboys are it, dog. Oh my gosh, this is brutal. So we're probably going to have to make a pick right now. And I think that's, I guess, the strategy or the setup today. The first round is, the first year's draft is, you make the picks with the areas you got them, and you got to be cool with it. I think what I'd like to do here in the 4th round, it is day 3, right? Are we okay with some of the decisions that are made here? And I think what I'd like to do is probably go after a guy that's got a good vert, decent cone and shuttle, and you continue to grow that safety group. He's 22 years old, a little older, but I don't think that's bad right there. We accepted Dominique Goodson. Welcome to the team. Coming out of Liberty here. 102 in true value. We drafted him at 109. Concerns about his speeds, wrap up, drag down. 90 speed, 92 acceleration. I think that's a guy that can find himself in the mix there and potentially compete for a starting role. And we'll kind of see where we go from there. We get 2 picks in the 5th round. So I think we got to be, you know, we can be considerate with who we'd like to take. Now, maybe one of those guys still falls to us. And it looks like, folks, they did. So you're talking about Juan Smith is still out there. John Solano still out there. We could take one of those guys. We could go after a defensive tackle that's in the day 3 range. It's very hard to find defensive tackles in that spot there. You're talking about maybe some potential tight ends that could work out for you. You got Phillip Smith, who's got a 4-5 playmaker there. Freaking pretty solid from pretty much like John Solano there. You can't really complain about that. I mean, do we go for it here? I think I want to go after John Solano. Man, it's kind of worrisome here. He just doesn't run the routes, man. Like, playmaker doesn't seem to fall with where I would like to be. I mean, do you take a linebacker here? We have plenty of linebackers, but could you be okay with with finding that, do we take a pretty versatile speed rusher there? He's 6'1", 252 though. He might not be that great. It doesn't look like the tight end group is that crazy too. This is very, very surprising here. Yeah, his vert is crap. Like, these guys are actually within range more than the other one. I think I mean, when you look at the free safeties, that's another strong safety that can work out, but it's not really that great. I think what we're gonna do, I think you just go after the guys. We're gonna go take John Solano here, 5'11", 188. Says we need a center, but I don't think we really need it here. And he is 114 in true value. We drafted him at 141. Fast enough. Needs to work on catching. Average contested catch ability. 92 speed. 97 acceleration. What were we worried about? Why is this guy pretty freaking good? We'll take it. Great job right there. We got him. Now we got to think about what is going to be our next pick here in the 5th round. I think that's a pretty solid move. Solano was staring at me in the face. I didn't think he was going to be that great, but I'm happy that he is. So now we continue to look forward, right? It looks like players are starting to fall. We can go after a halfback again if we really want to here. We can try to take another corner. Another guy there. I don't really think we need to get too wild with it. I think, it looks like there's some later round guys we can grab in the 7th. So do we go after another free safety here in the day 3 situation? It looks like some strong safeties look pretty good. I think Fuller is actually a pretty interesting prospect. Peter Fuller, he's an athlete, 6 foot 226. You're looking at he's the fastest linebacker in the draft. Pretty good athlete, dude, when you look at it. It's not going to be the greatest, but why not take somebody here that you can get a little comfortable with? He'll play on the back end and you'll work through it. So the draft pick is made. I don't know why they're excited, but Goodell is ready to go. What does Goodell have to say about our dog right here? Let's check it out. What do you say here? Our linebacking prospect is excited to play for us, and it was 263 in true value. Oh my gosh. He's gonna need some work, folks. Oh, that is brutal. On to the next pick there. It feels like this just does not work out for us. We head to the 7th round. I think this might be our last pick here. Let's see what we got. So you still got players here that are still like day 3 looks. There's a ton of middle linebackers here. You try to think about like, hey, could there be anybody that can shock us? And I think if we go after a player here in the 7th round, I say why not a guy that could help us out maybe in the secondary. We've thrown some darts there at some linebackers. We could go after a center here in the day 3 range. He's strong as heck though. You're talking about a guy that is 5'33", he's a power scheme, fits us, 36 in the bench. His vert isn't that incredible, but that could help us out. You're talking about a guard we can go after. We can decide to go after Emmanuel Woods in the interior line. I just don't think that's really the right move. If there was a tackle available in the 7th round, I would have done that, but there just wasn't one out there. So do we increase our weapons the way we have it with like someone like Phillip Smith and continue to try to build up that wide receiver group? Do we go after maybe a tight end here, or do we just kind of build up certain spots? I think we want to take a chance on Emmanuel Woods. He's more of a finesse guy. He's actually kind of decently strong, good athlete. You're talking about a dude who's 23 years old at Clemson. You'll make it work. Your 7th round pick. 342 in true value. So we crapped the bed on another pick, late rounder. It is what it is there. We have to move forward. I don't think we have another pick. Oh, we do. I think we got another one here. Sweet. So we went after a DT that was a scheme fit. Didn't really go according to plan there. Let's see what else we got here. We can go after a tight end. I think I'd like to just go after the center here, Noah McDowell. 6'4", 320. The dude was probably one of the better centers for the late round picks to take him. 216 in true value, drafted him at 205. I mean, he'll get some work in the preseason, but you know, this is tough. It's definitely a tough draft, but you gotta be okay with what you can do here. So we are a 71 overall team. We have 58 players on the roster there. I think we did okay. You know, we're gonna have to build this team up little by little, but let's check it out, folks. Mr. Callaway is a hidden dev, and he's an 81 overall. So we definitely got the best player in the draft. I'm excited about that. We're continuing to build out this wall here to help out our QB. Then you snag up Cameron Sneed here, normal dev, but I think this guy could be something special here. I don't really like the number 39. I wish that would be a little bit cleaner there, maybe 30. Let's do that. At Oklahoma too. That's like Joe Mixon, I think. We grabbed a 70 overall strong safety in Dominique Goodson. I think he's got some good possibilities there. It's a decent overall. It's going to take us a bit to build this team, but these Snowhawks don't look too bad already. 70 overall wide receiver in John Solano. You know, you got a guy that could play kick return if need be too, so maybe he surprises and shocks us up here. We ended up snagging up Fuller. That was a 65 overall. That one hurt me a lot, but he's actually an athlete that I can leverage here. So my hope is that Peter Fuller is going to be ready to go here, and hopefully steps up in the linebacking role when needed. We got a couple linebackers that'll compete. This one sucked, I guess, but look at this hidden dev. I wish I would have checked him first. Emmanuel Woods. We can grow this 70 finesse, dude. He might be starting, helping us out with the scheme fit there in the interior line. And he might be able to do something here. And then we found a center, 66 overall, a little older, but he's not a bad base. So, you know, he'll be behind Hainsey and stuff, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But again, it's about building up this team to ensure that we got some players that could potentially start. But the preseason is going to be an indicator of that. I think it's going to be kind of tough there, but Sneed looks like he'll have a chance to start from the get based on overall. Callaway's going to get in there. That's going to be kind of clean. Yeah, we'll kind of mess with the O-line, with the depth chart and stuff to kind of say where we stand, but I could see myself putting Woods in there from the very get his butt in there, see what he can do, see if Tonga, Bugs, and them are really ready to roll. And we'll kind of play that part out from immediately. Solano could be a return specialist, so that could be pretty neat. That would mean there's going to be a fight where McKenzie may not be needed. So, you know, we'll kind of play this all by ear. We have 58 players on the roster, so that's a little tough right there, right? When we advance, you know, we're going to keep the trades out there, just no practice squad stealing until week 6. But, you know, we're probably going to have to build out this team right now and see, you know, who's going to make it. Now, free agents and stuff we can pick up, but I honestly don't see myself getting too crazy here. The quarterback room is pretty much in a battle. Anyone can win it. No one is the best. So, you know, we're going to see those two guys go at it. I don't know if I need to bring anybody else into this mix. at this time, because there really isn't anyone that's too incredible to work through it. I mean, maybe we can bring in Stetson Bennett, let him kind of battle it out. Maybe he surprises everybody and makes it work there. As far as running backs, I'd rather go after some practice squad guys, but I don't really want to get too crazy with it. I think we got enough running backs, to be honest. Wide receivers, I mean, Malik Washington came over from, he is a Miami Dolphin, so is Taj Washington. Do I really want to bring those guys in there? Not really. There's Juan Smith, dude, 68 overall. He was on our board. Let's go ahead and bring him in, see if he can do something here in the preseason, and maybe if it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, it is what it is. It doesn't harm us at all. Xavier Smith's out there. You got another rookie here in Bryce Parrish. He's got some pretty interesting speed on that one. So we'll see some running wide, some new guys there. Tight end group. Unfortunately, I didn't see anyone that was that amazing from the get. We didn't really see any dudes tear it up. You got a Josh Rubio just catching 79. This guy could be a little sneaky pick right here. I'm gonna bring him in. Josh Rubio could be a nice little find there for us. You got some speedy guys. Justin Shorter was actually a wide receiver, and they converted him to a tight end. Hasn't really done much there. We'll try some of these guys out. You got to see if we could find some other pieces in this space there. I don't really see myself trying to grab too many other guys. Justice Drew, 65 overall. I mean, you bring in some prospects and you hope it works out. But I always want to look at, guys that are going to fit with what we want to do there. The interior line, as you can see, we're always trying to look at some guys here. We just don't have much in this space to really make much of a difference. But you try some guys out, you see if they can do something here, and maybe they shock the world there. I don't know how much. Wow, dude, this is a guy that fell off. He was projected to be a huge first rounder, and then he ended up just like never making it. Andre Carter was like one of those guys that, man, you were like, everyone was like, dude, he can actually get drafted in the first round, and just never did it. He can be an interesting player. I'd say let's bring him in. Let's see what we can do with Andre Carter there. Let's see if Andre Carter finds his way onto the field there. Don't really need any middle linebackers. Man, this is... you got another guy here. He's got like a burst to him. Raphael Reese. I think the linebackers are fine. Never anything wrong with looking at corners. Would hope some of these guys would be decent, but I mean, I'd bring in Stephen Gilmore. Why not? Let's see what we got there. Kind of have some tests in the corner position, because we didn't draft any corners, unfortunately. Yeah, these guys didn't. Man, none of these guys are. I mean, I was a Vincent Gray fan too, and I was like, man, these guys didn't make it. That's so weird. We're gonna take Dion Mahet, kind of get him rolling there, and then let's look at some free safeties. Najee Childress, let's throw him in there. He's a scheme, decent speed on him out of Stanford. Not a bad team to be tied to there. It doesn't look like we have anyone, but we did draft a guy, a strong safety there, so can't be upset about that. You got Akeem Dent. That's so crazy. They call him a rookie. It's a little bit of a glitch right there, but we'll take him. So we're not going to have a full roster. We got 70 players there. We'll kind of mix it up, folks, but the Snowhawks, we're going to work through the preseason. We'll kind of talk through that. see some of the players that we're going to decide to grab, but this is going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with this franchise and hopefully build it up and see if we can win it. The first couple seasons we may speed up through because there's just no real reason to kind of emphasize that. Maybe we'll highlight some players and kind of go, hey, this is what we're only going to look at. But, you know, other than that, you know, we'll try to kind of pick and choose some different spots and see what we can evaluate. But the initial part of the season is not going to be easy, folks. You're talking about a 71 overall team. It is going to be ugly. That'll do it for us today, everybody. If you like what you saw, please drop a like, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and most importantly, subscribe to keep up with the series. We'll figure out a tagline for this group, but it'll be fun, man. Have yourself a good one.